Okay, so now I need to, here we go. So start video. And I usually to
Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Sun. I'm the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator at Hudson Valley Regional Council. I'm joined by my colleague Eleanor Peck, and we're going to be talking about CEC energy studies. So thank you so much for joining today. Okay, so quick agenda. I'm first going to give an introduction about HVRC and the CEC program, and specifically about the CEC energy studies. Then we'll move on to our lovely presenters. We are joined today by the town of Newcastle, city of Mount Vernon, and the town of Gardner, who have all gotten an energy study completed through this program and how they use the study to guide their building upgrades. And finally, we're joined by Jeff Sherrill, CEC project manager at NYSERDA, who will be able to answer more questions about the study process itself. So HVRC is one of 10 regional planning organizations in New York State and serves the 7 counties in the Mid-Hudson region. We help municipalities access information and grants from the state and federal level and provide technical assistance on environmental and sustainability programs, economic development, materials management, and water resources. Our programmatic areas are funded by NYSERDA, the DEC, HREP, the EDA, and EPA. Feel free to reach out to us on any of these areas. And this work would not be possible without the annual support from our county government members. So thank you to our county governments. HVRC provides technical assistance, as I said, on the NYSERDA CEC program, which provides no match grant funding to municipalities for completing high impact actions. And these actions will earn municipalities points and grants. These are the current grant amounts available to municipalities. Small communities can earn up to $590,000, and large communities can earn up to $965,000 in designation grants. Our communities are working really hard to submit more actions and unlock these new and larger grants, and we'd be happy to assist with getting those actions completed. So once a municipality is eligible for a grant, this is what they can spend it on. As you can see, building upgrades is one of the pre-approved project types. In order to do the building upgrades for using the smaller grants, you do need to have an energy audit completed to support the upgrades that you would like to do. Completing an energy study is the first step to building a solid plan for improving energy efficiency. And you can get an energy study through the grant, or you can get it for free on one of your municipal buildings by doing benchmarking. And the energy studies are prepared by consultants working on NYSERDA's behalf. It's a comprehensive, fuel-neutral, unbiased evaluation on all potential cost-effective improvements.
froze.
Okay, and now I will pass it off to Eleanor.
Thank you, Liz. So right here is a comparison between the various types of ASHRAE level audits. So you'll see the CEC energy study is in between a level 1 and a level 2 audit, but it has a significant portion of the measures that are included in a level 2 audit. So these are the studies that you would be able to receive through the grant or through the NYSERDA benchmarking action. And they have been proven, I think, to be a really useful tool for municipalities to take advantage of in this program. So the price of the CEC energy study, when it comes out of a CEC grant that you have received, depends on the number of people who work in the building. So if you get a $50,000 grant, and you want to spend it on building upgrades, and you need an energy study before you do so, you would check this box and say the number of people who work in the building that you want to get audited. And you can get multiple buildings audited through the CEC energy study. And they would take off the cost, depending on the number of people who work in the building, they would take off the costs listed here from your grant. And the rest you would have available to spend on the energy study itself. Excuse me, on the energy upgrades themselves. So that's one way to receive a CEC energy study, is through a grant that you have received through the CEC program. However, there's another pathway, and that pathway is by completing benchmarking. Benchmarking is a process where you enter your building, all of your municipal buildings over 1,000 square feet, you enter that data into an EPA tool called Portfolio Manager. Liz and I, or your CEC energy, your CEC coordinator, are here to assist you with benchmarking. The first step is passing a resolution from your town board or city council. We have a template resolution that I've pasted in here to show you what it looks like, and you're welcome to edit that template. It's just for your use, but you do need to submit a copy of a resolution that requires the jurisdiction to make your energy use public, the municipality's energy use public. And that publicly disclosed energy use information has to include the building's energy use intensity, greenhouse gas emissions, and an energy performance score where available. The cool thing about the Portfolio Manager tool is that once you plug in your energy use, your electricity bills and your natural gas bills or your fuel oil bills, it actually gives you that information out. So it tells you what the greenhouse gas emissions of that building are. And then you need to submit a screenshot of a web page on your municipal website showing the benchmarking report is posted to the public. And then you're going to share your Portfolio Manager account with NYSERDA, so they would have access to your buildings too. So that's how you get credit for benchmarking, which would get you 300 points in the CEC program. And then if you would like to qualify for that CEC energy study for one of your buildings, the cost of the study would be paid by NYSERDA to the third-party vendor. You have to complete this other action. This action doesn't get you points, but again, it will get you that CEC energy study. So you would enable share forward abilities to NYSERDA. You have to have already completed benchmarking advanced reporting, that action we talked about in the last slide. And you have to make sure that the last 2 years of benchmarking have been completed, 2022 and 2023 right now. And you submit a form that Liz and I can share with you, or it's on the NYSERDA website. And then NYSERDA will provide further instructions and connect you with the auditor who would audit your building. So there's a couple ways to get these CEC energy studies that are available. Now, I'm so pleased to introduce our presenters. We have 3 presenters, and Jeff from NYSERDA is here to answer questions afterwards if anyone has questions that they would like NYSERDA to answer. But first, we have Sabrina Charney-Hall, who is the Director of Planning for the Town of Newcastle. Sabrina, take it away, and let me know when you're ready to change slides.
Okay, thank you, Eleanor. So the town of Newcastle, if this is just my cover slide, Eleanor, if you want to breeze through that, just to give you a sense of Newcastle, as some of you may not be familiar with us. We are a municipality with approximately 18,000 people. We're located just above just in kind of the middle of Westchester County. We're 24 square miles, or approximately 15,000 acres. Most of our community is zoned for single family residential land use. 3% or less than 3% of our land use is actually commercial land use. We have two hamlets, our Millwood Hamlet and the one we're most famous for, the Chappaqua Hamlet. And then, excuse me, we have several major transportation corridors, watersheds, and that's kind of where we sit. We're about a 50-minute train ride from Grand Central Station. Go ahead, Eleanor. So we were one of the first communities back in 2018 to become a climate smart community. We received our bronze certification in 2021, and in 2022 we received silver certification. We have a very energetic climate smart task force. And so we're continually working on actions and updating actions. Next slide, Eleanor. So one of the things we did do the benchmarking, we did, submit pictures of our website, to get some points and some allowances to conduct building energy audits. We actually were the first municipality to undertake the building energy audit. And for us, it was really important to understand where this ranked between the ASHRAE level 1, level 2, and level 3. And that's where, we working with NYSERDA really came up with the 1+ CEC energy study, because it wasn't quite a level 2. And that was important to the town in regards to other grants we were looking to apply for to receive funding for energy improvements. And it was also helpful in speaking with contractors who were looking to help us implement some of the information in the building energy studies. Next slide. So as I said before, we actually didn't just do one energy study, we did 3 energy studies. We did a study for our town hall building, a building that we refer to as the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, which is a 400-seat auditorium, and our Newcastle Community Center. Next slide. So just to give you a sense of these buildings. So the town hall was constructed in the 1960s. It's an existing 2-story structure with very elongated windows, antiquated heating and cooling systems. Our community center was built around 1930s, and this doubles, the upper floors are the community center, the basement is the senior center, and this harkens back to being the town's first library, so it's a very old structure. And then the last structure, probably the most recently built structure, was the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, which was built in 1986. And it was initially built as a lecture hall, so not necessarily a performance auditorium, but it has 400 seats and is located in the middle of what was formerly known as the Reader's Digest headquarters, which is now known as Chappaqua Crossing. So these are the 3 buildings that we conducted the energy studies on. And I'm going to give you a sample of kind of what these energy studies said. Eleanor, next slide. So the energy studies gave us recommendations on lighting, on our controls, both lighting controls and HVAC controls. It looked at our building envelope. It actually looked at our physical HVAC systems. It recommended energy efficiency measures, and then gave us separate information regarding building electrification measures. All 3 reports really followed the same formula, which included all of these details. And that was important so that we knew exactly which systems were being examined so that we could utilize the studies moving forward. Next slide, Eleanor. So here is a sample of one of the project summary tables. And the summary tables for the other 2 buildings look very similar to this. If you look at this table, you'll see you'll see the item that was examined, an estimate reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and then a savings cost analysis. A total annual savings, the install costs, and then a simple payback. So the essence of this is, if you were to make a change, how quickly will you see a return on that investment? So to give an example, we have a vending machine in our town hall. How could you change those controls to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions? And that is probably one of the least expensive things to implement at $270, but it's a simple payback of a year and a month, right? So this table really gives you a better sense of what you could expect by making changes to specific areas that were identified during the building energy study. Next table. This is a sample of an electrification summary table. So if we were to really wholesale redo our heating and cooling systems, if we were to use air source or ground source, what would we be looking at? Both from a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and then install cost and annual cost. You know, and we're looking at a payback after incentives of 299 months. You know, so, or 2 years. You know, so, or again, an assessment of redoing all of these systems is really it's a back of an envelope assessment, because really what we would then do with our energy studies, and I didn't prepare slides for this, but we are utilizing the energy studies as we are looking to make improvements on a capital, both on a yearly maintenance with our buildings, as well as a capital expenditure or capital programming with our buildings. I'm happy to say that the building energy study that we did for the Chapel Performing Arts is resulting in the installation of solar on the rooftop and battery energy storage in the basement. So that energy study is helpful, but we definitely need to move on to a level 2, if not a level 3, to really document what is needed in order to install. So that's all I have to say for that.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Next up, we have Shane Brooks, who is the Director of Sustainability and Community Engagement for the City of Mount Vernon. Shane, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Hudson Valley Regional Council and NYSERDA for giving me this opportunity. So that's the cover slide. Next slide, please. So yes, as you can see, Mount Vernon is just getting started in its high impact action items. So I like to say, like, I'm the first director of sustainability for the city of Mount Vernon. So all the information that I'm trying to gather internally has never been asked for before. So it's a challenge trying to corral all this information and house it in one central location. I'll give a prime example. Before I came into this position, our streetlights, we had the streetlight program, and it was done, but it was just never reported to the proper authorities to receive credit for. So that was the start of my interaction with NYSERDA and Eleanor and Liz through the Hudson Valley Regional Council. I must say that Hudson Valley Regional Council has been an extreme support system to Mount Vernon. Most of the things that I've gotten done would have not been completed without Hudson Valley Regional Council. So thank you. So far we have one community campaign, we have the energy code enforcement training, and we have the LED street lights. The count for LED street lights says 2 because we did the historical ones and we completed the Cobra heads. So that's what started us off with the micro grants to head on our energy audits. Next slide. So just to give you an overview of the timeline, we were in communication with NYSERDA and Hudson Valley Regional Council. We got under contract for the audits, and we were put in touch with an audit firm that was identified through NYSERDA. The audit firm requested 12 months of utility energy data for each building being audited. One thing that I highly recommend is that if you know you're going to embark on energy audits for your municipal properties, gathering the data before engaging the audit firm is highly recommended. It'll save a lot of time. save a lot of time. So there were conversations via virtual meetings with the audit firm, with NYSERDA, the Hudson Valley Regional Council, to make sure we were all on the same page. The auditor came, did a walkthrough. Audits normally take about, depending on the size of the building, about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, with a total walkthrough from the basement to the roof. So that was pretty extensive. The auditor will take about 30 to 45 days to complete the report. And based on your experience with the first audit, I recommend that you stay with that audit firm throughout your entire audit process, just so you can have uniform reporting and you can understand the reporting and be able to convey it a lot clearer. Yeah, so post report, we've conducted meetings to go through the recommendations, similar to what Newcastle just presented. We have the same format here in Mount Vernon. Next slide, please. So this is the buildings that we completed so far. Is, as you see on your screen, is the Mount Vernon City Hall. We've also completed our Community Dole Center, and we just completed about 2 to 3 weeks ago our police court complex. We also have 4 additional audits on the horizon. That's our 3 fire stations and our public works garage. But as you can see in this project summary table, they gave the recommended measures, and I believe recommended for further study. In the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Eleanor, can you scroll up just a little, if possible? Oh, all right, yes, thank you.
I don't think so. Sorry.
So the total reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for City Hall will equate to 117,735 pounds of carbon emissions in the reduction. The savings and costs, total annual savings will be $17,000, and over a 6-year period of time, we'll recoup that from the install costs, or the total savings, excuse me. Next slide. This is our Community Dole Center. All of our municipal structures, properties need an extensive investment in upgrades. Currently, there's nothing smart about our facilities, so everything is done manually. I wouldn't say that's an issue, but that's just a fact. Mind you, I like to say all of our municipal properties are enrolled in logical buildings demand response. So that has awarded us small savings. So just by enrolling our properties in logical buildings demand response, without doing any smart upgrades, we just received a $3,000 check by just being enrolled in the program and doing what we can do manually regarding their notifications regarding one of their events, where they recommend that you try to refrain from using your dishwasher, your those high energy required appliances. So similar to City Hall, this is the same format of the project summary table, the energy efficiency measures and savings and costs. This investment will be recouped over a 7-year period through the total annual savings. Next slide. Other considerations. Multiple city buildings are under consideration for Con Ed's planned geothermal energy network in Mount Vernon. Some of the recommended upgrades will align with these plans, while others could hinder them or be wasted effort. The auditors was able to help the city employees understand which recommended measures made sense based on this information in the walkthrough and post-study call. I'd like to spend a few minutes on the utilities doing projects in your community and how to extract the community benefit from these projects. So currently, Con Ed has 2 geothermal projects proposed here in the city of Mount Vernon. And one project is further along than the other. One project is a 4-phase project. They're in stage 2. We're currently having conversations regarding a timeline for them to do a test borehole, which will be 800 feet deep, only about 6 to 8 inches wide. But this project is an $80 million project here in Mount Vernon. And currently we have a lot of need in Mount Vernon. So one of the locations that they've identified, meaning Con Ed has identified to house their control center for their geothermal project is on city property. It's actually on one of our fire stations' city property. So as I just mentioned, our fire stations need an energy audit. So it's my job in these meetings to identify the community benefit, try to extract that benefit. So currently we're in meetings with Con Ed to discuss how this can be a mutual benefit. You want to put an $80 million project in our city. You want to use our infrastructure underground, but we also need a new emergency services unit operation, which was being proposed to be added to one of our fire stations. So I suggested that their control center be a mixed-use development where it can house their control center, but also house our ESU. And those conversations are ongoing and they are positive at the moment. So with Con Ed doing an $80 million project in Mount Vernon, we are hoping with everything that it's approved that they can build us a new ESU unit as well. Also redoing the HVAC system in our fire station with all the necessary lighting and installation upgrades. Working with the utilities can be very challenging, can be stressful. Like I said, the data that I'm asking for has never been asked for before. So me just trying to get a hold of all of our utility accounts and housing them in one location has been challenging, but progress has been made. Recommend that all buildings be identified first and all utility data is in your possession before engaging the energy consultant. It'll be very, for time management, please have one of your building management employees or someone who knows the building accompany you with the representative from the energy audit firm, just so it could be quickly done. Yes, next slide. Like I just said, the city just completed its 3rd CEC energy study of the police court complex. There's plans and works to spend future CEC grant dollars on 4 additional energy audits. The city council has just recently approved my request for qualifications to bring in a consultant to help me create a sustainability advisory committee. Currently, I'm an office of 1 with no budget line. And everything that I'm doing has been the fruit of me submitting information to NYSERDA in the CEC program and us being awarded the grants to address the low-hanging fruit. I just attended a Smart Cities conference in May in North Carolina that focused on decarbonization and the importance of public-private partnerships to advance your I guess your progress in obtaining your sustainability goals. Public-private partnerships to fill in the gaps regarding matching grants and things of that nature is very important. And currently, my main focus right now is policy. Policy, because right now, we don't have anything on our books to govern a battery storage operation or a geothermal operation. So that's one of the things that Con Ed is helping us with is to create policy. Policy will outlast me, and without a strong foundation, nothing will be able to be moved forward. So policy is important, and re-examining your current ordinances and things of that nature. One last thing, we've also created a strong partnership with PACE Energy and Climate Center under the direction of Craig Hart. Also with their College of Health Professionals. They've been helping us out a lot regarding workforce development, green jobs, and other funding opportunities that can help advance the city of Mount Vernon. One thing that I'm in current conversation with them with is to audit our current codes to audit our current policies with an equity lens. Some of our policies are dated back to 1930s and haven't been amended since. So we need to update them to the most current, the most current. I think that's it. Do I have another slide? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. Excellent. All right, our last presenter is Paul Kiesler from the Town of Gardner Climate Smart Task Force. Paul, take it away.
Thanks, Eleanor. And thanks, Sabrina and Shane. Those were great presentations. I'm going to try to avoid repeating things that you guys brought up. So I might not cover everything in my presentation. But I'm going to kind of represent how this might work in a smaller town with kind of a low budget, kind of chic kind of ethic. So like, as an example, I was telling Eleanor the other day that the town bought a lawnmower, but there's a volunteer who actually mows the lawn in the park. So that's kind of how we operate. So there's not a lot of money in the town budget. It's a town of about 5,000 folks up in Ulster County, right under the Shawangunk Mountains. So if you know Minnewaska, part of Minnewaska is part of Gardner. And this is our town hall, which was rolled into the hamlet on logs in 1875. And it remained as school until 1981. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2000, and the schoolhouse was renovated in 2004 when ground source heat pumps were installed in this building. And then it's hard to see, but there's a building behind this, the schoolhouse, which was added in 2006. Yes, the next slide, please. And so what I'm going to try to cover in this presentation is talk a little bit about Climate Smart Gardner, which, you know, we're an all volunteer group. There's no employees working on this. And, you know, our purpose is to eliminate municipal air and climate pollution. And we like to talk about pollution as opposed to emissions and other kind of technical terms, because we find that makes things a lot more clear to folks. And we're also starting just as a point of practicality. We're starting with facilities because that's where we find the existing solutions and that are cost effective. So I'm going to go through paths to earn a CEC energy study, which Eleanor covered a little bit, so I won't beat that horse. I'm going to go through why it makes sense to conduct one, the process, and the results that we got. So Eleanor, if you could go to the next page. So we actually got 60, we just earned today another 300 points. So we're up to 6,600 points. So this is a little old as of this morning. And so we used our 2-star grant, which you get at 3,000 points. And at that time it was $10,000. We used that grant to, it's actually now 50,000. And we use that grant to get the CEC energy study. It costs $3,400 because we have less than 10 employees in the town hall. And then we're using the remaining 6,600 for the implementation of those actions. There's a second path, which we also used, which is to do the facility benchmarking. I actually ran that project and we finished it a few months ago, and we got our 300 points. You can see them there actually at the top of the page, top of the points. And that gives you a free energy study, which we're going to use for our other main building, which is the highway garage. So if you move to the next page, you haven't gone through the, so we now have these two studies, and so when we went back and we were like thinking about, and this is something that Eleanor wanted me to present, was we went back and looked at, okay, what should we focus on? What we did was we went to our greenhouse gas emissions study. This is a little outdated, but we don't think that the results are that different. And if you can see in the top chart, the vehicles represented the vast majority. And then the next two bumps are the highway garage and the town hall. And then I excluded vehicles and did another chart on the bottom so you could see the difference. So the highway garage is basically that their emissions come from electricity and fuel oil. And then the town hall emissions come from electricity and propane. And obviously the vehicles above are gas and primarily diesel because they're all heavy duty trucks. So we, with the goal in mind of maximizing, pollution reduction with existing cost-effective solutions, we set aside vehicles for now because there's not a lot of solutions for the heavy-duty vehicles that we're using that, clean roads and, do, heavy stuff like that. So we decided to focus on the highway garage and the town hall. And we started with the town hall because it was really clear the solutions, which were, energy efficiency, electrification of that propane system, and then solar to supply it all. So we wanted to start obviously with the efficiency first, because that would then reduce the need for the heat pump system and the solar system. So that's kind of the order that we went about it. And if you just go to the next page. So the process, which I think others covered, but just in case there's still some questions about this, once you earn the grant, then what we did was we got a letter of commitment from the town supervisor, the top municipal officer, and we submitted that with this Excel workbook. And I sort of approved the grant application, and they organized a kickoff meeting. And in that, as I think Shane mentioned, we collected as much information as possible, all of our energy bills, and all the information on, the windows, what kind of glazing they had, what kind of insulation we had in the walls and in the roof and so on. So we got all of that information, and which made the walkthrough, which took about 2.5 hours, pretty effective. And we had already identified like a set of issues that we thought we wanted to make sure that were included in the report, and that I think was useful. So I think that's a good point, is get as much information as possible, and then when you arrange the visit, make sure that everyone in the building knows what's going on, and join the visit to make sure you can help guide the discussions and the research. And as Shane mentioned, the auditor prepares the initial report. We had a meeting, and then they made some adjustments, none of which were bared on the results, but just for some small technical points. And then we shared that with the municipality, and we're about to make the recommendations at our next town board meeting on how to spend that money. And on the next page, we have the results of that. So the building is actually in very good shape because it was renovated in 2004 and 6. So they recommended some lighting and some pipe insulation, as well as doing setbacks. And all of those projects fit within the budget that we have remaining. The estimates were just for materials, and we don't have a public works department, but we do have a highway garage, and they come over and if we ask nicely, they'll help do some of these projects for us. So we're going to try to get them to do these projects so that it fits within that budget. And so then when that's done, I didn't put in the little Excel, the little spreadsheet, tables that Shane and Sabrina highlighted, but we got the same ones. And the other thing that they mentioned for us was to put in a heat pump system to replace the propane. So that obviously is not going to fit within the $6,600 budget. So we're going to use our next, our 4-star grant for that. Our 3-star grant, which is $100,000, is going to be used for solar. And we are out right now with RFPs. We're expecting them by the end of this week. And we're going through that process now. So we'll be doing that. And then, so yeah, so with this grant, hopefully this year we'll put on the solar, and then early or at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, we'll do the ground source or air source heat pumps. And that would make the town hall, which as I mentioned was rolled in on logs, it'll make it a net zero building in about 12 months, 18 months from now. So, and that's really great because it's a great icon for the rest of the town, and people will look up to that and see that, you know, okay, well, we can do this too in our town. So yeah, that's it, I think, right, Eleanor? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to tell everyone about your studies. So we would welcome any questions about these CEC energy studies. I also, Jeff, do you want to jump off mute for a moment just to introduce yourself? We have Jeff here to help answer questions too, if any come up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eleanor. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Charles, and I work closely with our energy firms to arrange these CEC studies. I can say a few words about what the CEC studies really look at, and that might head off any potential questions, but also might potentially cover another facet of the more technical side of things. So the scope of the CEC energy studies, once earned by any of the means covered, look at four main facets of energy efficiency: lighting, HVAC, domestic hot water, and building envelope, so things like insulation, and make recommendations taking into account energy efficiency as well as payback of the measure over the course of its useful life. Those measures are returned in the tables like you saw, potentially with statuses of recommended, recommended for further study, not recommended, recommended mutually exclusive, and so forth and so forth. Any recommended measure is eligible to be implemented with CEC grant funding. So the study really provides a outlet for any CEC grant funding, in addition to any information that you gain from the report. Sometimes I think that's even more powerful than the opportunity to spend grant funding, not only in giving you information for capital planning, but also potentially giving you something in hand that you can point to and say, see, I told you we need to do.
You muted yourself, Jeff?
I did mute myself, I think right at my punchline. Of course. Anywho, it provides information right in hand to justify future capital improvement and capital planning. A change that we have made recently is that we are no longer recommending replacement fossil fuel equipment. So that is outside the scope of this study. What we can do, however, is look at potential ways to use less fossil fuel through things like pipe insulation or temperature controls. I think that gives it for a bit of the details, but I'm certainly too happy to talk more about it if anyone has questions, and certainly willing to talk through in more detail. There's plenty of intricate ways to go about doing these energy studies, but the bottom line is that we do want to provide useful information for you and your communities in looking at ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also provide planning for the future.
Thank you, Jeff. So we have questions in the chat that are being answered. Great. So Joe asks about finding building auditors. So were these auditors that each of the municipalities uses private contractors, or were they provided by NYSERDA? Jeff.
Yes, and great question. And thank you, Shane. Provided by NYSERDA. So to give a little behind the scenes look, these are contractors that were selected from FlexTech contractors, so very well established in their field. And we were able to piggyback on that to provide these studies at a low cost to the municipality, or in the event that you go through the advanced benchmarking action, at no cost to the municipalities. So you don't have to worry about finding a private contractor. They will be provided by NYSERDA. The caveat to that is if you earn a $5,000 grant through NYSERDA and do want to procure an energy study, for $5,000 grants, you will be responsible for finding your own study provider. Any grant funding greater than that, though, and NYSERDA will be providing those contractors. They do vary based on region. So typically it will be L&S Energy for, I'd say, the greater part of the state, and then CJ Brown Energy for anything in the western part of the state. Buffalo and down, roughly.
Thanks, Jeff. One more question in the chat. Why have you moved away from recommending fossil fuel replacement systems?
Great question. So this is the general direction of NYSERDA. We are looking at providing opportunities for electrification. The other thing I did not mention is that these studies will include opportunities for beneficial and building electrification through air source or ground source heat pumps. So the technology has advanced, and what we can do as part of the scope of these studies is rough size systems. Now, like other presenters have said, it usually is a good idea to first implement insulation, so you don't have to oversize your air source or ground source heat systems, but certainly that will be part of that scope of work.
Shane, question?
Yes, you just mentioned, Jeff, that any grant received under $5,000 is up to the municipality to identify an audit firm, and anything larger than $5,000, NYSERDA will assist with providing you that audit firm. So for cities like Mount Vernon, who's a disadvantaged community and an environmental justice community, if we do receive a $5,000 or lower grant, will NYSERDA still honor the same rate?
So in that effect, first off, addressing the DAC portion, or disadvantaged communities bonus through the CEC program, any grant larger than $5,000 where the work is being implemented at a DAC address, disadvantaged community address, that is eligible for that 50% bonus through our program. So if you earn a grant for $10,000, you're applying work in a disadvantaged community, that can turn into $15,000. So we've increased the DAC bonus under this new round of the program. To talk through your second question, typically if and I will do want to be careful about recommending private companies. So with that in mind, in the past, LNS has honored the rates that are set out in the clean energy studies, but it is ultimately up to the energy provider to name their price.
Got it.
Jason has a question in the chat. In terms of process, and Jeff, maybe I can take a stab at this one so you can take a break. Is CEC benchmarking the recommended path to qualifying for a grant to run an audit, or are there other suggested paths? So Jeff, jump in if you have a different answer, but I would say, if you, it really, in my experience, it depends on the number of buildings that a municipality has. Benchmarking can take a long time if you're a big city that has a lot of buildings, or it's hard to get, your utility data. But if you're a small town with just a few municipal buildings, I think benchmarking is a really great option to get that audit of one building. Also, there are other ways to get audits beyond the CEC program. We've just touched on CEC energy studies in particular here, but NYSERDA also has the Flex Tech program, which is a 50% match program that has a lot of contractors. You can work with a contractor directly and get that 50% match from NYSERDA under that separate program, or you can just find an audit firm and get an audit that way, and figure or put an RFP out. So there's a few different ways to get an audit. We're just covering the CEC energy studies here, but I think either using the grant pathway where you do some actions in the CEC program, earn a grant, and get the CEC energy study taken out of the cost of your grant is a great option for larger municipalities or any municipality. And if you do want to go for benchmarking, you're a smaller municipality, you don't have that many buildings, benchmarking for the single audit is also a great option.
Great answer, Eleanor. I think that's absolutely the case. In general, I think it also depends on what you, as the person living in your municipality, knows about your building stock and what your end goals are. If you know, for example, a building doesn't have insulation, leaky windows, lights that haven't been converted to LEDs, and you're looking for some of those quick, easy fixes, certainly using any grant funding can be a great way to address some of those easy concerns. That being said, the studies, the CEC energy studies, do cover the scope of work of those 4 main facets that I talked about: lighting, HVAC, domestic hot water, and building envelope. So it can also be a good idea to think about the goals of your municipality and for planning for the future. Things like wastewater treatment plants, for example, typically do not have a lot of improvements that fall in scope of the CEC energy studies, and they very well might be better suited for a flex tech study, like Eleanor mentioned. So it also combines some of that local knowledge and planning of your municipal goals. So there's no set path, but I think in general, benchmarking is a great first step. If there's easy things to address, then sometimes it can be you might be able to skip that step and go directly to that study.
Can I just put a push in? I mean, I see a lot of chat about benchmarking and paperwork and all of that. What I'm going to say is the benefit about using the benchmarking is that you're getting kind of double whammy points, right? Which will get you further towards your goals. Yeah, it may take a little while. It may take a lot of paper sifting, but I think that it's one of the easier qualifiers to obtain points for certifications.
Yeah, good point, Sabrina. And it is free if you're, unless you're, if you're just having staff or volunteers doing it, as opposed to some of the other actions which require capital upfront costs. That's a good point.
Can I also just chime in and
Yeah.
say, because Jason is one of my communities. So if Eleanor and I work with all of you to do the benchmarking and other actions, and we can help you set up the benchmarking, go through the training of how to set up Portfolio Manager, and also help you input the data. So as long as you collect that, then we can help you put it in for at least, 4 buildings? And assuming that the village is pretty small, so it should be pretty simple to get done together.
Excellent. Any other questions? I'm also going to put a link in the chat and I'm going to share my screen, but please, if you have another question, chime in while I'm getting this situated. So we have a survey. We want to do, another one of these. We did one on renewable energy projects, large renewable energy projects last week. This is the one on energy studies. And we, Liz and I have been playing around with some other ideas of what we can do later in the summer. So please take the survey if you're interested. We're going to send out these slides afterwards. And we're planning a in-person get together as part of HVRC's our Conference in Motion, which is starting this summer. That's going to be a tour of the Croton-on-Harmon, Croton-on-Hudson at the Croton-on-Harmon train station. That always gets me every time. It's a solar canopy project that includes on-site battery storage and electric vehicle charging stations. We're going to do this sometime later in the summer or early fall, so just keep an eye out for that. We're excited about that. I've been taking the train often these days and seeing this go up as I take the train down. So it's a really cool project, and we're excited to learn more about it with some of you, hopefully.
I had a quick question, if I could.
Please, yes.
Yes. I'm a municipal official from the village of Millbrook, and we just recently finished doing the greenhouse gas survey, and we are in the process of looking at potentially benchmarking. But we have an office staff of exactly 2 people, a population of 1,400, and municipal officials who take on a lot of work but come and go by their terms of office. So I think one of my concerns at this point is, even though we've done the greenhouse gas emissions, how much time is a benchmarking process going to take year after year to make sure we report accurately? And what kind of burden might it be on a already obviously short-staffed situation that we face?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Volunteers.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, I personally, for the village of Millbrook, I've been working with Genevieve on actually doing the benchmarking. And so that's actually been completed already, but I understand the concern of, having to do it every year and having to collect that data. But I think if you start, just keeping those collecting early on of the bills and electricity files, and then again, we can help you put that data into the portfolio manager. It's pretty simple and straightforward once you get the hang of it. But again, totally understand the concern there, and we're here to help if you do need assistance in doing the benchmarking.
I do know that from Genevieve posted us that there are actually training programs where they take approximately an hour to an hour and a half to be able to take someone from the office or a volunteer to be able to find out exactly how to, as opposed to anything else. So how often are those pretty well presented? They come annually, biannually? When are they given?
The ones that she's talking about are the EPA portfolio manager trainings. So they offer introductory trainings. They offer them pretty frequently. So I'd say maybe once a month or every quarter, they offer those trainings. If you also look at the chat, there is a link to to a website on our page that has Energy Start portfolio training videos done by CCE Schuyler County. And those will also help you get started with just setting up the benchmarking account and also doing some of that inputting of the data. But it should be, there are definitely resources out there.
All right, thank you.
Can I just say one last thing? I think it's really important. Jeff is with NYSERDA, and before Jeff, we had great assistance from Melanie. And without NYSERDA's assistance, our process of doing our building energy audit would have been extremely difficult. Right. And so being able to trust NYSERDA, that's not a private contractor looking to make money, was very important to us. And we could not have done what we did without them. So thank you. And I would advise anybody to work with them. They're great help when trying to put this together.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can ask this question very well because it's somebody else's question who's not here, but I have a committee working on measuring greenhouse gas reductions from our buildings for clean energy and climate smart communities. And there was a discussion about whether or not the emissions factors in our tool, which is Energy Manager, which we now have synced with Energy Star, if they show, he's saying that they're shown at the state level, and that hasn't changed by year. And he's saying in when you do this for commercial buildings, there's much more nuance to how they factor the greenhouse gas emissions. And we want to make sure that we're submitting something appropriate, like depending on what region and what year the emissions would be factored differently. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my understanding is that EPA's portfolio manager tool uses the eGrid, which is an EPA emissions factor that's pretty, my understanding is pretty standard across the country. The eGrid emissions factor, so yours would be the eGrid factor for NYCW, so New York City and Westchester, which is probably, I'm trying to think about what you did in your CAPI, Charlotte, and I think you might have used a different emissions factor.
We use ClearPath.
Well, ClearPath can use the eGrid, but I think this might be an offline. I feel like this
Okay.
is kind of in the weeds, but
Yeah.
this might be a conversation with like Mary, because I think you did use a different emissions factor in CAPI than Portfolio Manager is using.
Right.
And you all decided together
Part
to
of
use the NYPA emissions factor. Is that ringing a bell? No,
I'm not
maybe
sure.
not sure. Okay. But
Yeah,
as
'cause-
far as commercial buildings and the difference between, you know, emissions factors with commercial buildings, that I'm not aware of.
Okay. All right,
Shane?
thanks.
Yes, I just put something, I put a name, if your utility is Con Ed, I think most of us is, Jane Solnick. I have, met with her in various meetings regarding Con Ed's geothermal project. And every municipality, has a point of contact for their utilities. I know some of us may not know it. I found out very late who it was, but the experience in trying to get in contact with them is like I'm a regular, so it's like I'm a regular homeowner trying to get in contact with Con Ed. But Jane told me directly, if your request is not being fulfilled, you email me directly
We
and she will get it to you.
love that.
So that information is in the chat. And please use it as necessary, because my experience with trying to get all of my requests fulfilled has been strenuous.
Thanks.
We're officially over time. Does anyone have one last question before we let everyone go? All right, hearing none, we will let you all go. Thank you for spending the hour talking about energy audits with us. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, Liz and I are here to assist. And thank you so much to all our presenters for being part of this today. Have a good afternoon, everyone.